Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It has been a very long time since I have posted a video, but I wanted to give you guys a tour of my pantry for 2022 season. It was a busy one, and I feel like my fall has still not slowed down. My winter, next month I'm starting seeds already. It's crazy. So I'm like, this is as good as a time as any to start filming a pantry tour. Now, there's things that I still haven't canned, such as my barbecue sauce, as well as I just got a bunch of pork yesterday. We got our two pigs back from the butcher that we had processed, and so I still have a lot of pork broth probably to do, as well as I want to can some sausage and some, it's called cold cut meat, things like that. So I'm going to flip the camera around and I'm going to give you a quick tour, just a brief overview of what I have, and then I'm going to go into detail of what every jar is. I did want to add one more thing, and that is that our pantry is still a work in progress. We're still not finished. My husband built these shelves last fall, and then these ones were built just this fall. And so there's still like tools and things on there, and there's still pieces and parts from our previous shelves that were here. So you just have to bear with that. Like if I am gonna wait until it's perfect, you know, it'll be next year. So I'm just going to go in and give you this tour. You guys excited? I am. So I'm gonna have to do this a little bit of a wide angle shot here because otherwise it's not all going to fit in my frame. So this area is like my fruits and jellies, that sort of thing. Then we're going to come over here. Everything on this side, except for that right there, is tomato products. And then the rest of this is all vegetables, minus that on the bottom. And then this side is like my meats, proteins, except for this, because we're still not done, and that's supposed to be on the fruit side, but my husband needs to finish those shelves. So, and then of course there's some bulk food storage down there. So that is an overview of my pantry. You can see it's still a work in progress, but I am so grateful for all the shelves I do have. And yes, I'm sure somebody's going to point out there is lots of empty spaces, but as you notice, there's no empty jars here yet. So I still have an empty jar storage elsewhere, and I'm hoping to add those in. So at some point, maybe once we have shelves on this side as well, then I'll be able to put them in there. But yeah, I like it because I like it organized by category and by type. And so I don't like to have things smushed together. So let's get into the pantry tour. So first off, right here, this here section is pear sauce. Now this year we were actually able to get pears from a neighbor. So we live in Ontario, Canada, so we are able to grow pears and peaches in our zone. We are a zone 5B, almost 6. And so yes, they grow here. Now we did plant a couple of pear trees last year. They obviously are not big enough and producing enough for us yet. But our neighbor, Sheeta, has at least 3 pear trees. Actually maybe 4. I don't know, 3 or 4. And she doesn't use any of them except for a couple pears in her chili sauce she makes. And so when we found that out, we were like, can we come and pick your pears? And my husband did some barn work for her. So it was a great trade. So we have lots of pears. You can see, I'll go through those first or later. But this is pear sauce. So I just cook my pears and put them through my Victoria strainer, and you have pear sauce. It is delicious. It's literally no sugar, nothing. It's so good. We've been going through it like crazy. I had a lot more jars canned, probably, I don't know, a good 10, and we've already gone through them. So yeah, and then over here, I have pear juice. Now, what I do is I save all my peels and my cores, and then I put them in a pot, cover it well with water. And what I do then is bring it to a boil it for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever. I don't really time it. And then I let it sit overnight, depending on when I started it, and strain it in the morning. And it gives glorious juice. It is just no sugar added. It is amazing. And I just can that up and we use it to drink, or I add it to my boys' supplements and tinctures that don't taste very good. We mix it with that. Amazing. So I got, I don't know how many I canned, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We have 12 left. So probably I canned around 15. And then on the next shelf, we've got strawberries. So we have strawberries of our own. They did not, I'll see if I can get it to focus a little bit better. Anyways, they did not get very big. I think it's the variety. Anyway, but I can them. I just let them sit with some sugar and it creates its own juice. And you have canned strawberries. And then last year, we had picked a lot of strawberries and I had canned some pie filling. It's very, very hard to see. I'm sorry, guys. It's my light. It's not ideal in here, but it's what we're working with. So it's amazing on, you could do it on waffles. I love to make, it's called Quick Dessert. It's an Mennonite cookbook. It's literally just crumbs and a jar of pie filling. Bake it for 30 to 40 minutes and you have an amazing quick dessert. That's what I love to use it for. And then I do have strawberry jam on a lower shelf. I should really organize that a little bit better. But this is beet jelly. It looks like grape jelly. Tastes kind of like grape jelly. I had tried that last year because I had so many beets and I used the juice, added grape jello. I followed a recipe and made beet jelly. It's not our favorite, but obviously it's from 2021. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, yeah. And then here we've got some blueberry pie filling. It's really hard to see the blueberries in here, but it's blueberry pie filling. We had picked blueberries at a local blueberry farm. Friends of ours from church own one, and so I froze a lot of blueberries, but I also canned some. I love this, again, for that same quick dessert. Or on cheesecake, it would be really good too. And then this is iced tea concentrate. So in the summer, my husband's family was over and I had made a bunch. And instead of letting it just go bad in the refrigerator, I was like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can find a recipe to can it, that exact iced tea concentrate. So I did. The only thing I had to do was add some lemon juice in the jar to obviously raise the acidity, right? So you don't have to pressure can it. But yeah, perfect for next summer. And then down here, we've got, this again was from last year. So this is mock pineapple. So it's the zucchini pineapple recipe. I used Ruth Ann Zimmerman's zucchini pineapple, mock pineapple recipe. We don't love it on pizza, and I think it's just the consistency, texture, and maybe the flavor isn't quite what we're used to. But in any kind of like, and I probably wouldn't use it just in a straight pineapple dish. Yeah, I would probably, the only places I've used it is in like carrot pineapple muffins. It tastes wonderful in there. And so I have like the chunks, the bigger chunks. And then I did crushed, and I did the pineapple tidbits, just to have all three different ones. And then over here, I have grape juice. I don't know, 2, 4, 6, 7. I think we've gone through probably about a couple of quarts already. But it's just, we have wild grapes on our boundary line, fence line. And of course, they're very tart. So the juice is canned, no sugar, and it's concentrated. So we just add it with ginger ale, and it's wonderful. We actually, my husband's family would have been used to this. We have popcorn and grape juice as a Sunday afternoon snack. So I have grape juice, and I also have grape jelly. We love grape jelly, surprise, in yogurt. So in my homemade yogurt, because I don't add any sugar or flavor to it, the grape jelly is actually quite wonderful in there. Now I had canned some with, these are done with the Pomona's pectin. Pomona's pectin sets extremely well. It's like a really, really thick jelly. And mixing it into yogurt is a little bit harder because it's Just has a bit of a different consistency than normal soda would, but I still prefer that it has no sugar or very little sugar, right? And then here is one lone jar of elderberry juice. I had foraged a whole bunch of elderberries just beside the roads and things where people probably wouldn't have sprayed. I've already made 2 batches of elderberry syrup, and this is my last jar, and I'm hoping this is gonna last us all winter. We're gonna start on this side. This is peach jam. So, see the difference? This one was done with not even a syrup method, just sugar, and then boiling it till it got thick. That's from last year's. And then this year I used the Pomona's pectin, and it got super thick. Like, it doesn't even move at all. But it's really, really yummy. I love peach jam. Oh, it's like one of my favorites. And definitely do a lot of that. Last year, I had done peach jelly. Look at how beautiful rose color that is. Of course, done with sugar. Look at the difference. Same method, everything, except I used Pomona's pectin for this one, and it didn't turn nearly as pink, but it still tastes amazing, so that's really what counts. But yeah, I did, so the way I do this peach jelly is I save again the pits and the skins, and I cover them with water, boil them, strain off the liquid, and then proceed using a jelly recipe. So that's the way I do that. And I should also say, most of our jams and jellies get used in my homemade yogurt as a sweetener and flavor. So that's one reason why I make so many, or do up so many. Yeah, we do have toast occasionally, but not that often. So here I had some juice left over from making the blueberry jam, or blueberry pie filling, sorry. And so I just made some blueberry jelly. I'm like, why not? I try not to waste anything. So yeah, it'll be good in yogurt, I'm sure. And then this is my strawberry jam. It is not as red as it usually is. There, that's better. It's more of a pink color because, again, it has very little sugar in it because I use the Pomona's pectin, but it still tastes absolutely wonderful. It's good in yogurt, toast, that sort of thing. And then last year I also did pear jelly. Looks very similar to the peach skin and pit jelly that I did this year. It's got a very, very mild flavor, so we do add it in yogurt, and this was done last year with sugar. And we also love it on toast. My boys will request this occasionally. So that's that shelf. I'll move you this way a little bit so you can see, where are we? Over here, right there. All right, so you see all these are all pears. Now, so again, like I said earlier, my pears were done and they're just gorgeous. Oh, they look so beautiful in the jar. So the pears came from our neighbor who had them on her tree, and she didn't know what to do with them, and they were just falling to the ground, honestly. And then she had to clean them up because the hornets and wasps love them too, and then she threw them to her horses, which is fine, but it's nice to be able to use them, and to get free. Pears are typically pretty expensive, and so how I can these is I use 100% straight pineapple juice. So I dump like a big can, like a tall can of pineapple juice into my 2-liter pitcher, and rinse out the can with some water, add it in there, and use it that way. And then I use my pear canning method to actually water bath can them, but they come out tasting so amazing. So I do the pineapple juice with my pears and my peaches, so there's no sugar, none, and they taste amazing. The only difference between using a sugar syrup and a pineapple is the pineapple does leave it a little bit more gritty. So, you know, if you're not a fan of that, then don't do it, obviously. But I think this is amazing. It's delicious. And then down here, we've gone through quite a few peaches already, but this is the peaches. Again, absolutely beautiful in the jar with pineapple juice. The pineapple juice does settle a little bit, but you just shake it up and you're good to go. And again, I use the same method as the pears to do this. I just can them in slices and we eat it as a fruit alternative in the winter when there isn't fresh fruit really available. That's how I was raised and that's how we do this. And then I like to can, I should do this one. I like to can, normally I do it in quarts, but I like to can peach pie filling as well. Again, for that same quick dessert recipe, or you could just make like an ordinary peach pie as well. But it's so good and so handy to have on your shelves. You could use this on waffles, you could use it pancakes, you could use it anywhere you really want to, but we love it in that quick dessert. And then this entire shelf down here was full of applesauce. We've gone through a lot already. Again, we get apples from our neighbors for free. Again, this neighbor where we got the pears from, she also had a bunch of apple trees, and so we got apples from her. We got apples from another neighbor just down the road from us. And I generally can my applesauce completely unsweetened. This has got, you can't tell it on the camera, but it does have a bit of a pink hue, and I love that. Last year's applesauce was so pink. It was the apples that we used. Some of the apples that I used this year were a little bit more tart, and so I did add some brown sugar to it. I feel like brown sugar is healthier. I don't know if it really is, but I like to think it is. Anyway, and then we sent 8 or 9 bushels of apples to a local person here who has a cider press that he rents out. And so we got, I think it was close to 9 gallons of cider, like apple juice, apple cider. So that was amazing. And it's all free because this is my biggest tip. So I think Venison for Dinner, Kate from Venison for Dinner says this as well. Find somebody local that you can find produce like this from and ask them, trade if they want to. Like the apples and pears that we got from our one neighbor, my husband did replace some barn boards for her. Like, my husband's in construction, it was no big deal for him to do that. And do that because it saves you so much money. Plus, I mean, unless you go with, decide to just go without, I guess, but we just don't go without fruit because it is a staple in our house. Like, we're going to go through all of this fruit before next fall, guaranteed. There will be very little left over. All of this food probably will eat. My boys are 6 and almost 4. They eat a ton. It's just crazy. I can't believe I can't keep them fed, I feel like, or full. They're always wanting more. Anyway, so that's the applesauce. I think I canned, oh boy. There's six jars deep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I probably canned 60 or 70 quarts of applesauce. I know that's a lot, but we go through a lot of applesauce. My husband takes applesauce or some type of canned fruit and like a sour cream, like a what is it, a 500 ml sour cream container full of canned fruit and yogurt, like one of each. And so we go through a lot of it. Like, we can go through a quart in a day easily. So yeah, and then on the bottom shelf you'll see the jars with green stickers. This is our homemade maple syrup. Oh, it's so clear, you can see right through it. We have a bunch of maple trees and we have some on our road that no one taps, and they're really, really old. So we made 9 gallons of maple syrup this spring, and we are going to run out, guaranteed. So we need to do more in the, in a couple months, probably March or so. So that's, yeah, we had done 9 gallons, I believe it was. And then my bottom shelf, I know you can't really see, I'll tip you down a little bit. I just store my rings and my lids. And then that black crate way down there is garlic. So all of this, I don't know how many there is, probably like 20 or something, is my homemade tomato soup. It's my aunt's recipe, It is delish. You literally don't even have to add anything. Just warm it up. You can add some milk if you choose, but you don't have to. It is so good. So much flavor. Oh, it's got so much flavor. We love to have tomato soup and grilled cheese for Sunday suppers sometimes. So I have lots of that. And then, I hope you guys can hear me. The furnace is going to kick on here right away. This is my condensed tomato soup that I canned. Again, if you don't know yet, I'm a rebel canner. Just putting it out there. So I have a recipe for doing this. Now, the reason I do condensed is I make some casserole recipes, other recipes, that call for a condensed tomato soup. And I'm trying to make things myself instead of having to buy them at a store. I'm trying to decrease the amount of processed food I'm buying from a store. So if I can make my own basically cream of tomato soup or condensed tomato soup, I will do this. So that's what I use this for. So I can quite a bit because I use it in my chili recipe. Like I can chili. And so yeah. And then this entire shelf. 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 50. I canned 50 quarts of ketchup. The best ketchup. I love it. It's a little bit thin, and some batches turned out a little bit thinner than others. We go through a ton of ketchup, obviously. That's all ketchup right there, that row. It's a staple. My husband uses it on everything. Every kind of casserole has to have ketchup on it, and my boys love it too. And I just put it into, I have saved the Heinz bigger ketchup bottles, and so I just use a funnel and put it in there. But yes, my husband's family's recipe, absolutely amazing. And then on this row is spaghetti sauce. So what a wonderful, now I know there's people that don't can their spaghetti sauce as spaghetti sauce, but I like to have the convenience of it. And this year I added a lot more herbs and stuff, and I modified my recipe a little bit with seasonings and herbs, and it is so tasty. We just had some spaghetti and meatballs this week, and it was so good. The only thing we were missing is Parmesan cheese. I need to make some of my own. I just haven't tried that one yet because it has to age for so long. And I needed a couple of ingredients for that cheese. But anyway, spaghetti sauce. We go through a lot. I love it in the summer because it's such a quick and not a super, like it won't heat up your house like crazy, because you can just, you know, I brown or cook up some ground beef in a pot, throw this in, heat it up, cook some spaghetti, and then with some Parmesan cheese and fresh Caesar salad from the garden. Oh, so good. So good. And then here's another recipe, Rebel Canning. But I did not. I was gonna say I used Make It Make's recipe, but I don't think I used that one, but I think she has one as well, or that she used one. But cream of mushroom soup or condensed mushroom soup. Again, I use this in casseroles that call for cream of mushroom soup. I will even use it instead of cream of chicken soup. But anyway, absolutely wonderful to have. I just bought mushrooms from the store and made it up, and I made 2 batches. Well, like large batches. And I'm not sure if this is going to be enough, but hopefully. And then the next shelf down here is more tomato. I mean, this is all really tomato products, but this, and I've got about 24 jars maybe of diced tomatoes. Again, it goes in my casseroles and in soups and stuff. I love it. And I had so many tomatoes this year. I was just canning everything up, and why not? I'm just really trying to be intentional about not wasting food or produce or any of those things. And so yeah, diced tomatoes. And we do not go through a lot of salsa. Hubby is not a fan of tomatoes, to be honest, unless my boys are running upstairs. Unless it is chopped up or pureed. Anyway, so this is salsa from 2021. I still have 4 jars left, and I think I might have canned 6. Like, we really don't go through a lot of salsa. I love salsa. I grew up on Mexican food. My dad was grew up with like rice and beans and that sort of thing. So I love salsa. I would love salsa and chips too, but I'm trying not to buy things from the store, so I don't buy a lot of tortilla chips. Anyway, I need to make my own tortillas, I know. But salsa. And we have tons of pizza sauce. I still have a couple jars left from last year, but not too many. So we have pizza about once a week in the winter. On our Saturday night is pizza night at our house. And so I make pizza sauce. It's beautiful. And I do 2 different jars. This is if we use a smaller batch, and this is if which pretty much our family now is going through a 250 ml jar of pizza sauce. And then that bottom row that you can see is all, no, not quite all. It's tomato sauce. It's a little bit runnier maybe than it should be. But I do use tomato sauce in recipes, especially my lasagna recipe. But I'm gonna be using it to make my copycat recipe barbecue sauce. We love the Stubbs sweet and sticky barbecue sauce on burgers. I'm going to try making a copycat recipe with the tomato sauce that I have canned. And then again, I use tomato paste. You can see it's pretty thick. I use tomato paste in some recipes, so I make my own instead of having to buy it. So that's what these little jars are. And then down here, the very bottom row, you can see right there, I just have tomato juice. So this is kind of versatile. I can make it into tomato sauce if I have to, or I could make it into more ketchup, because the likelihood of us running out of ketchup is actually pretty high. So yeah, this is kind of at the end of the season. If I'm kind of done canning all my tomato products, but I still have tomatoes coming in, then I just make some juice. It's really, really easy. Cook tomatoes, send them through my Victoria strainer, and can it up. And I gave away, sold so many tomatoes too. We sold quite a bit of produce from our garden. So a little tip for you homesteaders, or people that are wanting to homestead, thinking about homesteading. A great income is selling seedlings, for one, and 2 is selling any extra produce from your garden. So that is what that is. So tomato sauce down here. Then we're going to move over to this shelf. We've already run out of carrots. I did not can any carrots this year, and I still can. We actually still have carrots out in the garden that are covered with straw bales to winter over, and we can just go and dig anytime we want. We also have carrots in sawdust or shavings in our root cellar that hopefully will last us a little while. We're going through them pretty quick. Anyway, so if I have to can carrots, I can do that later. This is canned squash, butternut squash. I'm not a huge fan of it. It turns out pretty mushy. I might end up using it as pumpkin, although I have lots of that too, so I don't know, but I did that last year. Yeah, not this year. And then over here, again, Rebel canning. But if you haven't known yet, I come from Mennonite background. My husband comes from horse and buggy Mennonite background, and his family, generations, has canned pureed pumpkin. So I used one of their recipes and I canned pureed pumpkin. Perfect. I have not used it. I did this last fall. I have not used this yet because I just haven't. I don't make a ton of pumpkin stuff, but this will last me a couple of years and I don't have to can or grow any pumpkin. Over here is green beans. I canned in December of 2020. They need to be eaten. They're getting to the point where, and I did not can any last year really. I just did dilly beans. And this year I actually froze all my green beans instead of canning them. So we're trying to eat through these. I hate throwing food out. So this would actually probably be a good treat for chickens. Maybe that's an idea. Anyway, we have lots of green beans left. I still have like 1, 2, 3, 4, so 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 30 quarts left. I did so many green beans the other year. Anyways, and then this is all pickles, and we've eaten a ton. And on the bottom or the next shelf, there's some pickles as well. We eat a ton of pickles. We love pickles. So I did 80 pints of pickles, and we probably will run out, especially of our favorites. So these, I did a lot of the, just trying to think, oh yeah, these are regular. I did a number. This is just regular kosher dills. They have a piece of jalapeno in there, I think. Maybe not. They were supposed to. Anyway, just regular kosher dills, recipe from my mom's friend. And then we do a recipe, again, my husband's family favorite recipe called icicle pickles. They're a really sweet pickle, and they're like a 10 or 14-day process, but so good. So good. Same with these ones. These are called Society Chip Pickles, another Mennonite favorite. Trying to get it so there's no reflection. Anyway, and they're also a sweet pickle, and they are a 10 or 14-day process. One is 10, one is 14 days, but really, really good. Canned a lot of those. And then down here, these are from a recipe from the Homesteading family here on YouTube and Instagram, called the crunchiest, crispiest pickles ever. I followed her recipe. They're more of a sour pickle, and I love that. I love sour pickles. They're so good. They are my favorite. I canned a lot of them, and I have 2, 4, 6, 8 pints left. That has to get me through till like July, August. Anyway, so good. And then these are bread and butter pickles. Again, another one of my favorites. Is it gonna focus? So good. So good. My aunt's recipe. I love them. I could eat a whole jar in one sitting. And then here is a couple rows of beets. So these ones are just regular canned beets. They turn out quite mushy and soft if you can them, so I don't think I'm going to do that again. These are Harvard beets. I tried a new recipe last year. These are from last year. Can you see that? You can't really see too well. We don't really care for them, so I have a number of jars that we'll be slowly eating at. And then these are pickled beets. We love pickled beets, and I did not do any this year, and we're down to our last 2 jars, which is sad. But I know I have to do pickled beets next year. We love them, and they're so healthy. All right, I'm gonna just move the camera down so you can see the bottom 2 rows here, or bottom row, I guess. Okay, so I tried something new this year. I did cowboy candy, and then I could just canned the cowboy candy syrup. We don't like it. Everybody likes it, but my husband finds it too hot. So maybe next year I'll have to take the seeds out. I don't know, or I just won't do it again. I should just gift it, but I'm a little bit of a stingy with my jars. I'm like, I would just want to keep all the jars to myself. I don't know. We'll see what I happen to do with it. I also tried another tried something new. Pickled red onions. I had red onions in my garden, and I'm like, you know what? I'll try pickling them. They should be good on burgers and such, so we'll see. These are pickled jalapenos from last year. There were some red ones in there too. We use this on pizza. My husband loves jalapenos on his pizza, so that's what and this is from last year. So there's still lots, and I think I did some. No, I didn't do any this year. So we're still working on those. It'll probably last us a while. And then I make my own homemade relish, like a hamburger sweet relish. And yes, I did add a little bit of food coloring. I don't know if I would do that again or not, but it looks pretty light colored if you don't. This is nothing like store-bought. I'm sure store-bought has crazy amount of food coloring in it, but it's really good. It's, again, my aunt's recipe. Love it. So this is like my protein section mostly. Up here we have cabbage soup. I'd grown just a little bit of cabbage, and I was like, oh, I want to try it. And I can eat an entire quart at one sitting. It's so good. Again, my aunt's recipe. Amazing, amazing. This is ham broth. Now, I normally can it in quarts, but at the end, you know, if it doesn't fill up a quart, I do use a pint. So ham broth, ham stock, so good for like cream of potato soup. All right. This is beef tallow. I had requested the beef tallow. I did end up getting it a bit dark, which is why it's not as pure white as I would love and has the sediment on the bottom. But I had requested it from we get beef from friends of ours up until this point anyway, we have. And I'd asked if I could keep the tallow to render. So I did that. I have only one left. We use it for when we make our homemade potato chips in the winter, or if I deep fry like chicken, not just deep fry, but fry up chicken, that sort of thing. It's amazing for that. Here is my home canned chili. It is just, it's so amazing. I love having meals like this on hand because it's such a quick, like it takes 5 minutes to heat up a jar of chili and you have a meal, or add some biscuits, or we love having chili and biscuits and then carrot sticks with my homemade dip that I make. So good, absolutely so good. And this is more of a sweet chili, but it's delicious, absolutely delicious. And no, I don't like anybody else's chili. I like mine. And then here I have some hamburger vegetable soup. It is not my favorite. I was really hoping I would love this recipe. But it's not, I think it just needs a little more salt and flavor. I'm not sure why. Anyway, but still really, really nice to have these meals that I pressure canned a whole bunch of them. I made a huge big stock pot full, and amazing to have on hand. This is beef stock or broth. I go through a lot of this stuff. We don't eat a lot of soups, but I still, for gravies and all that kind of thing, I absolutely love it. This is canned ground beef. Now, meat just never looks super appetizing in a jar, but it's so handy. So this is specifically for a recipe I use called gravy beef. And so it's just like a ground beef and a beef gravy, in essence, over top mashed potatoes. Delicious and easy, super easy. And then I had a bunch of steaks still in the freezer that we hadn't eaten up, you know, or barbecued over summer. And I'm like, you know what? Because I knew we were having more meat coming and I have to empty my freezer. So I just chopped them all up. I know it's kind of awful to do with steaks, but I canned, and it's really hard to see, but I canned stewing meat. So this will be great for soups, or again, I could make that gravy beef with stew meat, and it's so tender. It's just, that's one thing about pressure canning meat. It doesn't matter what kind of tough cut of meat you have. It just makes it so tender because of that long cooking time, right? Then we are going to move, okay, I think you can see well enough. We're going to move down to this shelf. So this here is all chicken broth. We raise our own chickens for meat. And so what I do is we normally cut off the carcasses, or cut off the parts and pieces off the carcasses, and then I use those carcasses in my stock pot with water and what do I add? Garlic, onions, carrots, celery, parsley, bay leaf, salt. Not a ton of salt, but some salt, and then apple cider vinegar because that pulls the marrow out of the bones. Yeah, and it's delicious. It's so good in soups or gravies or anything. And then I also and so any kind of meat that's left on the carcass, then I pull that meat off and can it as shredded chicken, which is perfect for casseroles or soups. I'm gonna use this some shredded chicken at Christmas. I'm gonna make a some kind of hot chicken dip, you know, with chips and dippers and things like that. So that'll be really good for that. And then all these tall jars here are apple juice, apple cider. Absolutely wonderful. The way we got it so clear is we have a maple syrup filter. It's a wool filter, I think. And that strained out so much of the sediment. There's barely any left. So we ended up with quite a number of canned jars, or like jars that are canned. And then we still put a number of gallons of apple juice into the freezer. So that was that. And then on the very end here, I should swap places. On the very end here, this is all my beans. Now, we don't really eat a lot of beans plain, but I like to have them for recipes. So I could make like a 5-bean salad if I wanted to. I have an assortment. So I have kidney beans, I have pinto beans, and I have your white navy beans, all canned. This to me is kind of like food security. It's a good protein source if we don't have protein. I also use, no, I don't use these. Anyway, yeah, I use them in recipes. I use them if I really want to try and make my ground beef stretch a little bit further. I'll add a pint of kidney beans into our taco meat. Just adds a little and beefs it up, right? Anyways, and what I don't have here, so this is my last jar of white beans, so I need to can some more of those. And I normally have jars of pork and beans there, but I use the rest of them all up for my chili that I just canned, I don't know, in November maybe. So that is also on my list. So white beans, pork and beans, barbecue sauce, and then I also have pork broth to make, as well as I have a whole bunch of pork lard to render, which is amazing. I am so grateful. We had 2 pigs processed last week, and we just got our meat back yesterday, and it literally filled up our massive 28 cubic foot freezer. It's crazy, and we still have 60 pounds of ground beef coming from another place. So that was my pantry tour. I know you're probably curious what is in these bins, or buckets. So I'm gonna quick just tell you what's in them. So when I when I go to my Amish bulk food store, I get like 50-pound bags of sugar, flour, brown sugar, and oatmeal. And so I store them in these food safe, they're actually 6-gallon buckets. And I list the date that I put it in there, and then also if I open up a new one, then I write the opened date. That way I can just make sure it stays fresh, right? But yeah, it keeps it, it's nice having, I hate going grocery shopping or going shopping all the time, and so having things like this on hand is amazing. So next up on the agenda sometime is to finish out the shelves, take all this down and put nice new shelves. That's my husband's goal. So yeah, that is my pantry tour. Now I'm sure you guys are curious on like my root cellar and stuff, but I will probably leave that for another video. I think this one's going to be long enough. So yeah, so I'm so glad you guys joined me on this pantry tour. I hope it gave you some inspirations. If you are looking for any recipes for things that I canned, let me know, and I might share them on my, I don't know, maybe I'll just link them in the description if you want, or I will, I'm not sure what I'll do. Maybe share them on Instagram. I'm not sure. If you're not following me on Instagram, you should be. My handle is @thisboymom_life. check me out there. I share a lot of our daily stuff. YouTube videos are a little bit more rare, as you know, because I haven't posted one in a very long time. So I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. And I forgot to tell you guys, or not tell you, I forgot to mention that I'm going to let you know how many jars are in my pantry, but you're going to have to follow me on Instagram to find out.